Dana, and I don't do this very often, so everybody take note. Dana White was right to block Conor McGregor from boxing Logan Paul.
I'm going to say overreaction on this one. I kind of agree with you, but I'm going to tell you why. Conor McGregor, I
Tell me
don't think
why it's an overreaction.
I'm going to tell you why I think it's an overreaction.
Okay, let's hear it.
This is the angle that I'm thinking, okay? On paper, it probably doesn't make sense to make him fight that fight. But when you think about it, and this is the way I look at it, I don't think Conor McGregor is ever stepping into that octagon again. It just doesn't seem like it's in the books. So if you're going to make money using the Conor McGregor name, you might as well just cut your losses and make a little bit off of whatever you could get from this boxing matchup. Because in my eyes, and what I see, and the way I see Conor McGregor acting, the things that he tells us, the way the UFC is talking to him, I don't see him coming back anytime soon. It just doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen. So if you're going to make some money, maybe make it off of this boxing fight, because I don't know that you can get this guy in a situation where he walks through this cage door ever again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. I did say on the end of the year, looking ahead episode of this show, this would be a year where we don't see Conor McGregor fight again. But that being said, though, if I'm the UFC and the way I'm playing this, like if he's gonna come back to fight, if he's gonna come back to compete, it has to be MMA. It's got to be in the UFC. It has to be, dude. There's no way that the UFC is going to put themselves in a position to cater to Conor McGregor. They don't cater to any fighter, and they're not going to cater to Conor McGregor anymore. They did that once already with Mayweather, with the Mayweather fight, and we've heard Dana talk many times since then. He hated the whole experience. He hated the co-promotion. He hated that they didn't have firm control over everything. Now, I know it's a little bit different in this case because we would have thought, well, it's a TKO thing. You know, WWE, that's who Logan Paul is contracted with. Conor McGregor is contracted with the UFC. So like, you're right. Like, you can do this and make some money. But I think like the whole idea that he would just nix it because of the hatred, that Dana would nix it for the hatred for Jake Paul. It's petty as hell, but it is on brand, dude. And I mean, it's probably more than that. Like, I'm sure Dana wants, he's not going to like beg in public, you know, for Conor to come back and fight. He's not going to go that route. We've heard him talk several times like, yeah, when he's ready to fight, he'll fight. We're good. He's playing his cards real cool with Conor. You could tell Conor's getting super frustrated, man. I think at some point, if he wants to finish out this contract, he's going to have to finish out. Like, he's going to have to finish out the contract. If he wants to be free from the UFC or whatever, he's going to have to finish out the contract so that he can do it. And then he could do whatever the hell he wants afterwards. But it's got to be MMA, dude. And personally, like, I don't care. I don't care if it's the Diaz trilogy. I don't care if it's Masvidal. I don't care if it's still Michael Chandler. Like, those are all fun ass fights that I would watch Conor McGregor fight against. Nothing that has to do with anything with a championship or the rankings. But give me a fun fight. That's what it's got to be.
Yeah, and I think another way of looking at it is we mentioned Logan Paul, Jake Paul, and we mentioned Conor McGregor. But really, it's a lot bigger than that. When you think from the UFC's perspective, had Conor McGregor not boxed Floyd Mayweather, would any of these other promotions have been popping up, doing these boxing events and all that stuff? And look what that may have fueled in Francis Ngannou, right? Like, look at the money he's made. So I think the UFC also looks at it as, look, I want to stop giving these guys these options of going over and making money in other places. Like, he wants to keep them there in the UFC. He wants that UFC title to be in front of everybody's eyes. And I think if he allows Conor to do that again, that's when you get other fighters asking for things. And the UFC's just traditionally never liked that.
Yeah. Can I just ask you one thing before we move on from this segment, Goze?
Sure.
Based on what you have heard and the fresh, like, just what you've heard from Conor, especially this past week as he talked about this and it getting nixed, just how would you categorize his relationship with the UFC at the moment?
Bad.
Like, what do you think that relationship is like?
I don't think it's very good at all. I don't. Just his tone, when we hear Dana talk about him and how almost disinterest he is to even talk about it anymore. Just, you know, whenever he does what he does, we'll do it. I don't think it's very good at all.
Yeah, we probably don't see him fight this year.
I've never seen him fighting in the cage.
Yeah, I don't think we may not see him fight ever again. I mean, I've said that before, but I'm just saying if it's gonna happen, if he's gonna compete, it's got to be MMA. So I understand why Dana White would block this. You know,
MMA Junkie AI.